Welcome to Off the Cuff, where the headlines come to life. And today we're going to be talking about the health of your body through the health of your teeth and gums. A very interesting topic and something that I've been very curious about. And we are fortunate today to have two experts with us, Dr. Nadir and Dr. Rima Bezi. Husband and wife team. It doesn't get any better than that. Dr. Rima, thank you for being here. And Dr. Nadir, thank you for joining us on Off the Cuff.
It's awesome. Our pleasure, and thanks for having us.
Well, I am so excited about this conversation because I think health has been sort of on the top priority for everyone, especially in this day and age, because everything that's going into our systems, the chemicals that we're digesting, the foods that are genetically created, so
modified.
It is a challenge to stay healthy.
Absolutely.
And through your campaigns, you talk about the health of the entire body through gums and teeth. Elaborate a little bit on that, Dr. Nadir.
Well, the way we look at it is, the mouth is the portal, is the initial portal for everything. We breathe through our mouth, we eat through our mouth, we have immunity through our mouth. We obviously breathe as well. And what happens is, if you don't take care of that initial portal and you let disease happen, it just eventually spreads to different parts of the body. So we definitely want to make sure that we take care of the mouth, which is so important. We have a lot of bacteria in our mouth, and a lot of the mouth is subjected to different attacks from foods and acids and things that people are not supposed to be doing with their mouths.
Everything goes into it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, it's just I mean, up to this day, I'm like so surprised with people not wanting to taking care of their mouth. This is where life starts. When you're born, your first breath.
Exactly. through the mouth.
And you eat through the mouth, and so. And obviously, you also develop immunity through the mouth. Saliva is there for a purpose. It's not just a buffer. It actually helps control and maintain, your level of bacteria. And with today's population, especially our aging population, my geriatric patients, they take a lot of medication. And number one side effect of medications, as you may know, Siham, is dry mouth.
Mm-hmm.
When there's dry mouth, well, that causes there's no more saliva. Therefore, the bacteria that's in the mouth has the ability to do a lot of harm.
Through contemporary dentistry, which is your place of business, but I know that you also open up your place of business to provide free dental care once a year to those that cannot afford it with the insurance plans. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, dental care is really extremely expensive, and some people just go over that and skip it and think, what, I can't afford that right now.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
They minimize it and think it's not important. So, and they tell you, I have so many other things that I have to take care of. So this basically sits on the back burner. And
but the two of you have wanted to create awareness,
mm-hmm.
and like I said, you open your offices up. Tell us a little bit about that event. I know it's a free dental clinic, and I know Julia Tawi is also one of your partners within the clinic.
Partner and a sister of mine as
well.
well.
And your sister. Family businesses
yes.
thrive because you put your heart and soul into it, and that's just absolutely wonderful. So tell us about that day, and what do you do, and what kind of services do you provide? Is it children, adults, across the board?
First and foremost, the Give Back Day was our way to reach out to the community and give back to the community. We're an integral part of the community, and we want to make sure we're giving back and thankful to the community that we're in. But also, like you mentioned, we want to bring up the awareness and importance of how your mouth relates to the rest of the body and how it affects the rest of the diseases that we might be dealing with and other complications that we deal with throughout the rest of our body, systemic health. So by bringing the patients in, and we open our doors to pretty much everyone, kids and adults. And we do cleanings, we monitor blood pressure, glucose levels, extractions, fillings, sedative work, so if it's a work that we need some other additional work, that we'll have them come in and we'll give them the medications that are needed and take care of their pain temporarily till they're able to do more work. But it was really welcomed with open arms for sure.
Imagine.
You should,
The
see the
patients
tears and the
tears,
emotions that flow throughout that day and the satisfaction and the fulfillment. That's the biggest part of it, and this is why we do what we do for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So do you have follow-ups with the patients? I think you touched a little bit on that.
Some do. Some end up actually coming back and becoming our patients. Some are not able to because of financial difficulties, and some have different insurance policies that are honestly probably not very beneficial for the patient. But ultimately, it's a service that we provide from the heart. My entire team and everybody that's involved with the event is all on a voluntary basis. Nobody gets paid that day, and it's just so wonderful, so beautiful seeing everybody putting their hand into it, and just the satisfaction at the end. Had patients coming in that's 3 or 4 in the morning waiting in the parking lot for us, so they were first in line to get started. And so this year we saw, I believe, 152 patients.
Oh, goodness, in one day.
In one day.
Yes.
And we had a large tent outside, and we have water, and we had a couple stations outside with nurses and a physician, volunteer also, just to also go through the medical history and just kind of give some free advice, but also let them know how important that the mouth is so well connected to the body. So again, it's an initiative that we're taking it to heart. We have so much passion for it. We just see the effects, the neglect that happens, and the later on effects that it causes, such as heart disease, such as diabetes, such as there's so many diseases out there that are all intertwined, all interlinked. I mean, there's really nobody said that the mouth is separate from the body. The mouth is part of your
Very
body.
important part.
It's the window to
It's
the
the
body.
window.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so
I feel like it's just amazing. Dr. Rima explained a little bit of this to me earlier, but you just mentioned a few, but cardiovascular disease, pancreatic cancer, migraine headaches are all related to teeth health, pregnancy issues as well, diabetes, obesity. I mean, this is just amazing. Even for myself, I would have never connected the two, possibility of strokes, Alzheimer's.
yes.
Can you talk a little to that? I mean, how does Alzheimer's affect your
Okay.
health of your teeth?
So pretty much,
vice versa.
Yes.
So remember how I said earlier that a lot of my geriatric patients take a lot of medications
Yes.
and medications and
Medications.
causes dry mouth, right? So what happens is this bacteria now that ends up thriving in the mouth, ends up through the bloodstream, because the mouth is extremely vascular through the gums, is able to, the bacteria, there's one particular bacteria that will actually go into the neurons of the brain and causes permanent damage to those neurons. And so we have studies that show that our geriatric patients are more susceptible because they have dry mouth and because they have poor oral hygiene, and they don't have the dexterity of being able to brush and take care of their mouths, is again, one thing leads to another. It's a domino effect. And so obviously, the brain cells starts to die, and then you start losing cognitive functions, and you start, and then obviously that's when you start getting permanent damage, you also lose a portion of the memory.
Well, the bottom of it, Siham, is inflammation. When that bacteria in the mouth, basically harbors in the depth of those pockets, it causes inflammation. What that inflammation does is causes bleeding in the gums. Hence the open door, open window for that bacteria to travel to the rest of our body and build home. How close is the mouth to the brain? So that bacteria makes its way into the brain, causes inflammation, causes damage to the neurons, to the brain functions, hence Alzheimer's. But we could lead this into the other diseases. So if that bacteria travels into your vascular system, builds home into your arteries, causes inflammation into your arteries, and starts causing blockage and things like that, and that build
promotes
up
heart disease as well.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I know when people have heart issues, if they go to the dentist, they make them take antibiotics prior to working on them. So that's all interrelated.
Obviously it's there, and we
Right.
know it's making its way, but we know we take the antibiotic, but we don't know, okay, well, let's prevent it from happening in the first place. Let's get to the source of the problem. Let's kill that bacteria right at the source and prevent it from getting into the rest of our body and causing the issues into our bloodstream.
I mean, issues like this can lead into stroke and into different kinds of physical diseases. Your type of dentistry is looking at the whole body,
Yes.
at the whole health of the body.
Yes.
And I know you've written a book called Changing Smiles and Changing Lives,
Yes.
which is an amazing addition and very, very informative, and something that people should really read. So Dr. Nader, you are an author as well as a great dentist, so very, very impressive. So implant dentistry. Now, how do we work towards that? I mean, what do we, when you're doing implants, how does that affect the body? And when do you decide that it's a necessary thing?
For sure. Well, to be able to live and to have a good ability to be able to chew your food, which is the initial stage of digestion, by the way. It starts in the mouth before it actually goes down into the stomach. You need to be able to chew your food properly and break down the foods into smaller particles so your stomach is able to do the work. And
It's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected, okay? And the saliva, again, plays a part in also breaking down the enzymes and all that. So what happens, though, is when a patient loses a tooth, multiple things happen. The bone underneath that tooth starts to resorb and shrink. The adjacent teeth, the neighboring teeth, will start to shift around and create spaces. If there's a tooth below that's being removed and the upper teeth are there, the upper tooth's going to start to drop down. So there's multiple things that happen once you end up losing a tooth. What we promote always is to make sure we have a decent full set of teeth so a patient is able to properly chew their food and start the digestion process. Here's the key though, Siham, is a lot of patients are unaware of this, is once you lose all your teeth, which there are millions of patients in the United States alone, once you lose all your teeth, your life expectancy is decreased by the average of 10 years per the statistics.
10 years?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So, and replacing your teeth with dentures, there are a few exceptions, obviously. Some patients do very well with dentures, but on the general, replacing teeth with dentures doesn't help in retaining or being able to live to the full life expectancy.
So even with dentures, your life expectancy is
Because
decreased.
in general, they're not going to be able to eat the healthy hard food,
So
fresh fruits and vegetables that they can.
consequence
Wow,
of
it's
not being
all
able to,
interrelated.
because you
Yeah.
have a prosthetic that's not comfortable, that sits on your gum, that causes sores, that keeps on moving and shifting. Well, that prosthetic, that patient will elect not to chew the good, nutritious food that they deserve to eat. Instead, they will eat processed food or foods that are not particularly healthy, and as a consequence, again, it's a domino effect. Something else will happen later on. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have a wonderful initiative called Say Ah. And
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to watch the documentary about that, and I was really intrigued. And after I watched it, it really kept me mesmerized, and my thought process just really went all over the place in terms of what are we missing. You know, teeth and gum health is important, and we all know that, but it's not our focus. It's not,
Right.
you know, where we're actually, you know, thinking is the priority for us. Now, you know, we'll go to the doctors. We'll, you know, if we're in pain, but trying to make that connection between your teeth, your gums, and your whole body. Talk to us about this campaign and your journey really to create awareness about this this connectivity. And you know, we have to be cognizant of the fact too that you know, through our insurances and you know what is priority out there too, you know, there's a cost factor, and so I think part of that journey needs to be able to focus on the fact that this is very important. And you know, just as people need to go get their blood pressure checked, they need to do this as well on a continuous basis. Some people do, but many people don't. So talk to us about this awareness campaign.
This awareness campaign, you know, is basically to build the bridges. You know, there's a disconnect between the medical and dental profession. And there's a disconnect with the general public as well. So this initiative is mainly to build bridges and basically fill that gap that's present right now. Like you said, we know it, but we kind of don't give it precedence, and we don't know the effects of it and the extent of the effects. I mean, and we're very passionate about, you know, just kind of building that bridge, relaying that message, taking it home, because now is the time. Like you mentioned, you know, we're suffering from so many things nowadays, and it's simple. It's not hard. You know, if you're walking around and your hands are bleeding, you know that bacteria,
Something's not right.
something's not right. I'm gonna take care of it. But we brush every day, and if we see blood, we think it's normal, and we don't do anything about it. And where did that come from?
The common sense isn't there.
Yeah. So, and it's as simple as it is. You know, if there's blood when you brush your teeth, something is not normal, and something has to be done. And it's as simple as going in to see your dentist and doing the proper measures to make sure that's not happening anymore. But the next part is, well, we're dealing with diabetes issues. We're dealing, you know, with cancer that's showing up every day at our doorsteps. You know, stroke victims. You know, you name it. So we're trying to basically prevent these issues from happening first and foremost. And you know, as a country, you know, our healthcare is basically deteriorating. We're one of the leading companies, and we have the worst healthcare situation.
Absolutely.
That
doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
There's definitely a disconnect
so
there.
we're taking it upon ourselves to do our part to relay that message and tell people and share with our healthcare professionals that, you know, together we could make a difference.
Do you within your practice, when somebody comes in, what capabilities do you have that would be able to diagnose an issue that they may have? They may be, susceptible to stroke, or if they have some cancer within their systems. I mean, what kind of capabilities do you have to diagnose that?
The number one risk factor for stroke, you just mentioned stroke, is high blood pressure, hypertension. So one of the things that we always do with every patient that comes in the office is we check the blood pressure to make sure.
See, I
that
don't remember that going to
yeah.
the dentist. It's a good addition.
That's what we do. And if there is a major issue, we send them out. We're the initial screeners. So if we see an issue, we'll send them out to their physicians, and highly stressed. And then what we do also is then we look at their history, and not only their history, but I also look at their family history, and I look also at their grandparents, and I try to backtrack and look at, okay, this is where they're heading. They're gonna most likely have the same issues because a lot of things are being passed on from generation to generation. So if the whole family has heart disease and heart attacks, well, I think you'd want to take a preventative approach than waiting until it happens to you. Heart attacks, as you may know, Siham, is the #1 killer in this country, and we're doing our part in educating the public and the profession, the medical professional, and making sure that inflammation is what starts the process of heart disease and cardiovascular disease. And so the #1 most common inflammatory disease that we have as human beings is for gingivitis or periodontal disease or gum disease.
Gum disease.
That's you go look in the Guinness World Record, you'll see it in there. It's the most common. I mean, out of a source. So that's
I love it. So what do we do with that? I mean, if somebody did have gingivitis, what would be?
So again, that's the initial process of your gums starting to deteriorate. So it's easily reversible at that stage. It's when you let that bacteria sit in the pocket for a long period of time. That's when the bacteria has the ability to cause permanent, irreversible damage. And that's when the bacteria has the ability to go through the epithelium layer of the gums, which is the cell layer on the inside of the gum, penetrate it, and then right behind that are where our blood vessels reside. So it's just a straight highway from there. It can go anywhere in the body. And you may know this, but we have 60,000 miles of arteries in a human being. It's wonderful. I mean,
I didn't know that. 60,000 miles.
Yes,
Yep.
It's just amazing. I mean, so the human body is very complex and beautiful and wonderful when it's all working in harmony.
Absolutely.
So we just want to make sure that we take care of it. And one of the things that I see happening too often is people are and the professional in general are reactive to a disease. So what that means is
proactive.
So if somebody, you don't go in, for instance, us dentists, you don't go see your dentist until I have a toothache. Well, usually by that time it's too late. The damage has already been done, and it's to the point where you have an infection, an abscess. I mean, that's too late. We don't wait until that time. We do it. When we find it early on. We catch it early on. And we always go back, what's the cause of it? And then at that point, educate our patients on what can they do to reverse, the process of the pathway that they're going to. And as you mentioned earlier on, a lot of it is environmental, and a lot of it is what they put in their mouths, and what they eat, and what they're subjected to. So just when you kind of open up their eyes on the different ways or different lifestyle that they can elect to pursue, you'll find that their health turns around and they're healthy again, and then they can become a better human being and become a better mom, better dad, better sister, better
Happier,
worker,
Yes.
and being able to actually be a good community person.
Dr. Rima, you said this was about bridging, and everything I'm hearing is trying to bridge the dental community with the healthcare community, and that is very, very important. what are you doing to do that? What is your campaign? How are you pursuing this? I mean, through the hospitals, through the physicians, you know, on an independent level, on a campaign level. What is the vision here?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above. Yes, you mentioned that documentary. We had a screening, of the documentary, and we had 70-some physicians or colleagues in the health field that were there, and they were all wowed by it. They, like I said, and they know it to a certain extent, but you know, we don't communicate on a day-to-day basis regarding our patients or inter-refer to each other, and this is what we're trying to do. You know, so like Dr. Nader mentioned, we do blood pressure, you know, checks on every patient that comes in out to our hygiene department. So if we notice that that patient has a high blood pressure, we definitely recommend that they go see their primary care physicians. And we're trying to have that same process, you know, basically reversed as well. So as patients are going to their primary care physicians, we're trying to encourage the primary care physician to ask a question or have somewhere on their questionnaires, how often do you go to see your dentist, or when was the last time, or do you have any issues in your mouth, or does your gum bleed when you brush your teeth? Simple questions like that that don't take too much time, but could have detrimental issues on the patient's overall health and prevent them from dealing with complications with diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, Alzheimer's, cancer. I mean, you name it, the list goes on and on and on. So by just taking that preventive, simple measure, you know, we could make everyone's life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So your campaign is really to promote that conversation between yourself and the actual physician that is treating the doctor.
That's part of it.
Yes.
That's not all of it, though.
Yes.
So our main campaign, honestly, is to the public.
Yes.
So first, we want the public to be aware of it, so they can take the initiative, because we have found that you need to be your own self. What's the word I'm looking for?
Representative
Yes,
or,
for your health.
or advocate.
Own health advocate.
So you have to be your own advocate to be able to, you know, lead a healthy life. And so we're educating the public on how important this is. Just to also piggyback on what she said about the primary care physician, I have had a few primary care physicians and cardiologists and pulmonologists that actually have referred patients to us. Thankfully, after we've opened up the communications between them. And one of the things that they've been noticing, if they have, you know, they do a lot of blood work, and that's typical of a physician's office. And when they do a lot of blood work and they look for inflammatory markers in the blood work, and if those inflammatory markers are elevated, they're high, they know and they can figure out what the source of the inflammation comes from, and I'm gonna tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's either a gum issue or some sort of an abscess that's at the mouth. So very, very important. And the thing is, physicians are wonderful. But I have quite a few friends that are physicians, and all of them are overworked, and just the way the healthcare system is set up, they don't allow them enough time to spend quality time.
To evaluate.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying, you know, we're getting sicker and sicker as a nation, and there's so many physicians to take care of all of us, and they're, you know, their hands are tied after a certain point. You know, how many can they see in one day? So, like Dr. Nader mentioned, we have to be our own best health advocates too, and make sure we're taking control of our own health too, and doing what we can in terms of our, you know, dietary changes, exercises, taking care of our mouth. You know, simple things that are so simple, but yet you have to do consistently. So, which is where us coming together and reinforcing that, and, you know, encouraging the patient to do that will make the biggest difference in their life.
And one of the other things too is the state of Michigan. We're the 40th unhealthy state in the country.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, we live in this wonderful state, and we love the state of Michigan and all its beauty. But we still have, you know, issues with, you know, with the trend is not going the right direction. It's getting worse and worse. So we want to make sure that we help in the initiative and reverse the trend.
Absolutely. So just knowing that there's such a connection between teeth and mouth and gums and your entire body is so important. And I hope that our system really addresses that
Yes.
and allows people to be able to go and get the care that they need,
Right.
through insurances and really, to have that covered totally, because I know that
Absolutely.
that is one of
Yes.
the major drawbacks of going to the dentist. But certainly a wonderful initiative, certainly something that's commendable, and I know that you're doing this from your heart because you care and you want people to be aware. You're both
Yes.
very successful,
Thank you.
so you can just go about and do what you're doing, but you're adding this to your plate to allow people to know what's happening and to create that awareness, and that is so important, and I know that takes a lot of time.
Yes.
So thank you for your time and for your energy and everything that you've done and all the wonderful books that you've given us to read, and this one as well. So Dr. Najib, Dr. Rima, thank you so much for joining us on Off the Cuff. And take care of those teeth. Make sure that you're healthy. And take a look at Say Ah. Google it. It's a beautiful documentary, something really educational. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.